Good morning. So for our first lesson, we're going to start with our board work, and then I'm going to talk to you about the links that we have for the activity and for our dance for today. The first part that we want to talk about is, notice over here, we have my name. When you guys come to class, there will be Dr. Tullis's 5 rules right here. We'll talk about those when you guys are here in person, if we get to get here in person. Now, this is something that my second and my third graders need to know. Second graders, normally you would have to have a test on this at the end of the year. So we might do some little quiz things with that, but the test, we're not going to have a great big pre and post test like we normally do. But first I want to talk to you, before I talk to you about the notes, I want to tell you about the parts that make up the note. So right here where it says parts of a note, there's 3 parts that notes have. The first part, every note has. It's called a note head. Right now here you see at the bottom is that little round thing. That note head is colored in. But it doesn't have to be. For example, like on the half note, there's a note head, the round spot right here, that's blank. If you take a look up here at the whole note, it's just a note head. It doesn't have anything else on it. So you have to have at least a note head for it to be a note. They can be hollow, they can be empty, or they can be colored all the ways in. The second part that we have is called the stem. Now remember, not every note has a stem, but a lot of them do have stems, okay? Then the last part is the flag. Now the flag is this little thing that kind of curls down and hangs down like a flag when there's not a lot of wind. That's why we call it a flag. Not every note has a flag. Like for instance, the 8th note has a flag, but the quarter note, the half note, and the whole note does not. You can have more than one flag. If we were doing 16th notes, they'd have 2 flags. 32nd notes would have 3 flags, etc., etc. All right? Now, why do we need to know this? Well, if a note just has a hollow note head, it can only be one type of note. And then if it has a note head and a stem, it could be 2 different types of notes, right? So then we have to look at whether it's hollow or whether it's solid. And then if it has a flag, just a single flag, you know it can only be one type of note. So by knowing the parts of the notes, it's going to make it a lot easier for us to be able to learn the note names, all right? So let's review that again real quick. What is this one called? That's right, a note head. And then this line right here that connects to the bottom of the note head is called that's right, a stem. And then this thing that looks like a flag that hangs down, what is that called? It's called a flag. Excellent. All right, now we're ready to move on to the next little thing. And we'll be reviewing this because this is going to be something that we're going to build on. This is sort of like the alphabet of the music language, all right? So here we have a picture of the note. We have the note name. And we have how many counts it makes in 4/4 time. How many counts means how many beats you hold a note if you're playing it. Don't worry about understanding that too much. You just have to know the numbers that are associated with each one. So this first one right here, the one that's just a round circle. It looks like I drew a hole on the board, right? That's called a whole note, but a whole with a W. It means complete. It takes up the whole measure. And that's why we call it a whole note. All right, so in 4/4 time, the whole note gets 4 beats because there's 4 beats in 4/4 time. That's why we call it 4/4 time. So when you see this note right here, you know that you only have to clap or play 1 time in that entire measure because it takes up the whole measure, and it's called a whole note. It means it gets 4 beats. Now, if we take a whole note and draw a stem, either going up and down or going down and up, right? For example, this one, the stem goes down, and this one, it goes up. It doesn't matter. They're still the same thing. That's what we call a half note. All right? I just noticed that F isn't real good. Let me fix that real quick. Now it looks a little more like an F and less like a T. A half note. What happens is putting that stem on it cuts the note value in half. So if we have 4 beats in a whole note, and we put a stem on it, and we cut that in half, we're stuck with 2 beats. That's right. So a half note gets 2 beats in 4/4 time. You take a note, put a stem on it, it becomes a half note, gets 2 beats. All right? Then the next one is if we take a half note and color in the note head so it's solid. All right? And it doesn't matter if the stem is going up or if the stem is going down. That is called a quarter note. And once again, it cuts a half note in half. So a half note has 2 beats, right? And if we cut that in half, then we have 1 beat. So a quarter note gets 1 beat in 4/4 time. All right? And then our last note is an eighth note. When we add the flag, right, then it takes the 1 beat from the quarter note and cuts that in half. So we have half of a beat, right? All right, so here's an eighth note. Doesn't matter if the stem's going up and down. Notice that the flag always falls toward the head, the note head. So if the note head's on the bottom, the flag goes down. If the note head's on the top, the flag goes up. All right, it's called an eighth note. And it gets half of a beat in 4/4 time. All right, I want to show you some quick tricks. Every time we add something, like we go from here, we add a stem. Here we color it in. And here we add a flag. Every time we add something, it cuts the number in half. All right? And if you just take a look at this, remember the whole note looks like a whole. The half note is a whole note with a stem. And then when we color it in, as we add more stuff, it gets smaller and smaller. The eighth note's the only one with a flag. The whole note looks like a whole. The half note has a stem. The only thing that's left is the quarter note, which is colored in like a half note. All right? So those are just quick little things that you can do to remember. Every time you add something, whether it's coloring in or adding a stem, you cut the value in half from 4 to 2, 2 to 1, and 1 to 1/2. All right? And then just go ahead and work on memorizing that. We'll be talking about these notes over the next couple weeks. We eventually learn how to clap them. And then maybe I'll even give you guys an opportunity to write them. Now, I'm going to put pictures of these up on the thing so that just in case you have a little trouble seeing, like on my phone it's really hard to see, but on my computer screen it's pretty easy to read everything. I'm going to put a nice big picture just of everything so that you can look at that and be able to see more in depth. All right, so that's what I'd like for you guys to work on. We'll review this again next week and then start using these in some actual music. All right, stay safe and look forward to seeing you a little later. There will also be an activity called Going on a Bear Hunt and a dance called Old Town Road that you guys that I strongly encourage you guys to look at also. Take care and be safe.